In this video, we're going to talk about trading the FTSE or the DAX. Which should you do? Stay tuned. Hey traders, a very warm welcome to you. Okay, so you decided you want to trade the European indices. Maybe it suits the time of day you've got available, you just like the way they trade, whatever it is. But you see a lot of people trading FTSE, you see a lot of people trading DAX, two of the biggest kind of economies, and you don't know which one to trade. Which one should you trade? So in this video, we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of each of them. Look at this little table I've prepared for some of the most important things as a trader and add some things towards the end. So the main points that we're looking at here are spread, the margin, the hours we can trade, and the kind of range and other little nuances that we get, which we'll talk about more of at the end of the video. Okay, so I'm going to use the broker InterTrader to talk about the spreads and the margins and stuff. If you are using other brokers, they're very, very similar, but this is kind of a good benchmark to see what's going on. So InterTrader will allow you to trade the FTSE from 1 point spread and the DAX from a 1 point spread, which is really, really good, guys. It's a great way of doing it because the market spread, if you go directly to the market, you know, the DAX is a 1 point plus your commission, so it's actually cheaper to trade the DAX with these guys than it is to go directly to the market. And obviously, when you're spread betting the CFD, you can go down into a small denominator. If you trade the futures direct and the DAX on Eurex, it's like 25 euros a point minimum. So that's quite handy. So, but they widen the spread to 4 points on the FTSE. So generally, what happens is between 8 o'clock and 4:30. I put hours here. Let's skip to this a second. 8 o'clock and 4:30 is when the cash session is open. In other words, the actual underlying stocks and companies that make up the DAX 30, FTSE 100 are trading. They trade from 8 o'clock until 4:30. That's when you're going to get your 1 point spread, because that's when the liquidity is the most, the volume's the most, and it's just the best optimal, well, not the best, there's no real best, but it's the optimal time to trade for tight spreads and good movement. So they're both very similar for that. So DAX and FTSE 8 till 4:30. Now, the DAX kind of futures open a little bit earlier, which means that the InterTrader will offer DAX spread at 2 points from 7 o'clock in the morning. So from 7 till 8, it's 2 points, whereas you don't get that with the FTSE. Now, after 4:30, you've kind of got this time period of 4:30 till 9, where the US session is still chugging up to, and this is UK times, by the way, guys, till 9 o'clock. US session is chugging. So the spread goes slightly wider on these two, and InterTrader widens it to 2 points from 4:30 till 9 for the FTSE and the DAX. So again, not a massive spread, but a little bit more than the kind of normal cash hour session. And then after 9, goes to 4 points on the FTSE, which is obviously when the liquidity is drying up. None of the major exchanges, well, US isn't open, Europe isn't open, so it's the liquidity is less, and it just makes sense for them to do that. So you got to be careful trading it. And the same with the DAX. The DAX goes to 5 points after hours, and that after hours is defined as 9 o'clock till that 7 o'clock in the morning, whereas FTSE, it's until 8 o'clock in the morning. So in reality, if you're day trading it, you're day trading between 8 and 4:30, perfect. 1 point spread, you can't beat it. You just cannot beat it. It's a great kind of thing that we have, a tool we've got available for us to trade indices like this, such a tight spread. Obviously, be a bit cautious if you're trading after 9 o'clock at night. 5 point spread, that's pretty too much really if you're day trading, if I'm honest. And so you wouldn't really want, if you're trading after 9 o'clock at night, you're not going to be day trading the DAX or making short-term trades on the DAX. It's not really feasible. It doesn't make sense. Or by all means, the fact that it is open 24 hours allows you to take a position if you think that we're going to have some good news coming out, or you want to react to some news and there's some volatility there. You've got the option. And also means that if you get stopped out, you're not going to get a gap kind of as you would on a stock from the close to the open. There's going to be some trade there, which can work in your favor or against you. So you've got to take that into advantage. So pretty similar when it comes to the sort of versus FTSE versus DAX on the spread. Very similar there. Margin 0.5% on both. So you know, all you can eat pretty much, unless you've got a very small account. But it does mean that you have got a small account, you can trade at a pretty reasonable size, which is nice to have that facility, as long as you're very cautious with it, of course. 24 hours, I talked about the hours, they are available all the time, but the spreads differ between the hours, obviously closed over the weekend. Now, this is an important one, the ATR, so the average true range is basically how volatile these markets are. At the moment, It's about 60 points for the FTSE, so it means it moves about 60 points in the day, a bit more, a bit less, but around that order of magnitude. And the DAX is moving about 150. Now the DAX is almost twice the value, not quite at the time I'm doing this video, almost twice the value. So it almost makes sense, but even if they're twice the value, the DAX is moving much, much more during the day relative to the FTSE, even if you're kind of going the valuation. But one thing to note here, guys, is the spread. Okay, the spread is still 1 point, and we'll talk about the intraday kind of 8:30 till 4:30 time period. Sorry, 8 o'clock till 4:30 time period. Spread is still 1 point. So if you're trading the FTSE and you're looking for good volatility and good kind of move relative to spread, you've got to be careful because 60 points is kind of your average day range. Whereas the DAX, you're trading a 1 point spread and you've got 150 points range. So the percentage of the spread relative to the range is far, far higher on the FTSE than it is the DAX. So if you're looking for that volatility, you're looking for that, big moves, and the spread becomes insignificant or less significant, you want to be looking at the DAX, in my opinion, as opposed to the FTSE. However, if you don't want that extreme volatility that kind of swings back and forth, you're prepared to pay a bit more for that, a bit more spread, then the FTSE is not a bad way to go. Which brings me kind of to the last thing, which I haven't gotten here, is the moves. Now, DAX can be a very volatile instrument. It can flick around back and forth, and especially when it goes through lows, it goes through highs, it goes through key levels, it will flush. It will just, go through multiple levels of price level before it finds a kind of reversal point and ping back. It'll be very, very volatile. Now, if you know how to take advantage of that as a day trader, it's a lovely, lovely market to trade. Very, very, can be very, very lucrative. If you're the kind of guy who gets stopped and gets caught out by that, then it's one to avoid, because that choppiness, that kind of extreme swings go against you. So it's knowing your strengths and your weaknesses as a trader. And if you prefer something that just kind of plods along, doesn't really, spit too much through levels, not to say the FTSE doesn't, but it's not quite as brutal as the DAX can be, then this is a preferred instrument. So sum it up, guys, FTSE or DAX, I think if you're a real volatility fiend and you like the action, you like swinging around, and you like, the spike candles coming out of nowhere and the difference or the differential in volatility, DAX is your one. If you prefer something a bit more steady, a bit more plodding along, I'm just saying that with caution because it's not always the case, but compared to the DAX generally, then the FTSE may well be more suited for you. Spreads are very, very similar. Everything else is pretty similar. Obviously, if you want to trade after hours, you want to be a bit careful trading 5 points, but then with the extra range on it, it probably makes up for that. Anyway, guys, that's FTSE versus DAX. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.